Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fire Station 8 in downtown St. Paul, Minnesota. We're here today to talk about a tragedy that occurred in St. Paul back in 2009 and an innovative technology that's come out of that disaster and announced today that technology, the BackSafe system, is going to be incorporated on all city fire trucks. With me making the presentation today, I want to introduce a number of people. First of all, Miss Margaret Klein, Lisa Klein, and Kelsey Klein. These are family members of the tragedy that happened in St. Paul. We'll get into that a little bit. I want to introduce Mike Brousseau from the BackSafe System Incorporated, and a fire captain from St. Paul named Jovan Palmieri. Jovan, if you'd join us too. So back in June 20th, 2009, Margaret Keene was a Highland Park resident here in St. Paul, and she was struck and killed by one of our fire department ambulances. They were backing down the alley to a traffic accident. Margaret stepped out from behind her garage, and the fire operator in the ambulance accidentally backed over Margaret and killed her. That was a very tragic accident for the family, very tragic for our firefighters as well. We are in the business of saving lives, and as one of my firefighters said, we're not in the business of taking those lives. We took this very seriously. One of our young firefighters at the time, Jovan Palmieri, said, "You know what, Chief, I think I have an idea that would help us here." Researching through the national and international statistics on backing accidents, we found out that we are not alone in this tragic occurrence. Garbage trucks, dump trucks, heavy vehicles, fire apparatus annually back over and kill people tragically. There's no good that can ever come out of these things unless we make a positive change. Firefighters are used to diving into tragedy and trying to bring good things out of that tragedy, at least for the future. And so today we introduce the BackSafe system that was developed by Captain Jovan Palmieri to eliminate these type of accidents around the country. Jovan was researching backing accidents at the time. He was driven to complete that invention, and he worked with the engineering department at Minnesota State University Mankato to build a prototype. Then he entered that into the Minnesota Investors Congress in 2010 and won first place. He was introduced to Mike Brousseau from BackSafe Systems, and together they've spent the last 7 years developing this technology. So I'd like to at this time introduce Fire Captain Jovan Palmieri. And Jovan, if you'd talk about your experiences.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Chief. I'd like to start by saying thank you to Margaret's family for being here today. Also extending my sympathy, as I know it's hard to bring the events up in 2009 that led to your loss of Margaret. In 2009, I was working as a fire equipment operator on the fire department, or a driver. I was always concerned with the safety of my own crew, making sure that they were safe. And one of the things that I always felt uncomfortable with was our procedure for backing the trucks up. Firefighters would walk in close proximity of the truck, giving hand signals to the driver, which is very common. It's what we do when we're backing large vehicles. We use hand signals, but that form of communication was very ineffective. The signals can be misinterpreted. The spotter can get lost in the blind spots behind the truck, and I just never felt safe with the guys out behind the truck. So I began to research backing accidents and found that the accidents are way more common than I would have ever imagined. Hundreds of people die because of trucks reversing. 20,000 people a year are injured by backing trucks. I started doing my research in January of 2009, looking nationally at backing accidents, and then tragedy struck in my own backyard. We had the accident with Margaret in 2009. That was on my own fire department in the city of St. Paul. Here I'm looking nationally at accidents, and it happened right here. So that tragedy really changed the way I looked at the backing accidents. It made me look at those numbers as people, not numbers. It was 100 family members or more a year that aren't going home to their families. It's thousands of actual people injured, not just numbers. I set out to find a way to change that. I had originally set out to find a way to make it safer for my crew, but I ended up working on the system to make it safe for people all over the country. The accident involving Margaret really gave me the drive that I needed to make it past all the hurdles involved in bringing a product to market. It gave me the tenacity that I needed to make it through the patent process and figuring out how to get prototypes made and that kind of, and all those decisions. Often asked how we'll know if BackSafe was a success or what success looks like, how many lives might be saved by BackSafe. And since day one, I've always said, if this saves one life, if one person can go home at night because they were using the BackSafe system, then I think that would be a huge success. Before I turn the podium over to, I believe, Mike Brousseau, I just want to again thank you for being here. I hope you take some comfort in knowing that this technology will save lives in the future, and that will be part of Margaret's legacy. I'd also like to thank Chief Butler and Chief Zachard for all their support over the past 7 years. They have been champions of this technology. They have assisted me in every way possible. And I'd like to thank the gentlemen at BackSafe Systems for their generous donation in Margaret's name. Thank you.
Thanks, Jovan, and thank you, Chief. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Kelsey. It's been an interesting journey. It took about 30 seconds from the very first time Jovan told me the story for me to realize that this needed to come to life to prevent the deaths that occur. The deaths, as Jovan mentioned, are staggering. The injuries are staggering. We're talking several people every hour in the United States alone are injured badly enough by being backed into by a large vehicle to require hospitalization. We're talking somewhere between every 4 and 6 days in this country alone, someone is backed over and killed by a large vehicle. This is completely preventable. And once we heard the story, we determined it was time to put an end to it. We've done that, we believe. We have, besides the units that are going into all of the St. Paul vehicles, currently there are 3 that have been in beta testing here. We have 1 that's going in as permanent as of today to St. Paul. We have 2 units in Eden Prairie that are beta test. We have 1 in Winnemucca, Nevada, and we have 1 in Independence, Iowa. We are determined to spread the word, to get this out, to prevent the deaths and the injuries and the insurance costs, frankly, that occur every year. So, in the name of Margaret, I would like to present serial number 1, BackSafe Guardian System, to St. Paul Fire Department in the name of Margaret Keene.
I want to introduce once again the daughter of Margaret Keene, Lisa Klein, and her daughter Kelsey. And again, thank you for this donation, Mike, and BackSafe. And again, I hope out of the tragedy of your mother's loss that good things will happen for firefighters and civilians in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd just like to say on the behalf of my entire family, I can't thank Jovan and Mike for digging into this and researching and perfecting this technology that we can get it out there to help prevent this in the future. You know, the loss of my mom was devastating to our family, but I also recognize how hard it is for the firehouse and the whole department. And I'm just very happy to hear that they're embracing this technology. They're going to get it installed and hopefully prevent some of this from happening in the future. Thanks again. I appreciate it, all of you guys.
The first unit will go in service on Medic 19 down in Highland Park in honor of Margaret. We have 3 other rigs wired up for the new technology, and we'll continue to roll this technology out fleet-wide in the months and years ahead.
All right. Basically, the BackSafe Guardian system is composed of 3 different components. The first one is the cab unit, which mounts generally in the center of the dashboard. This is the brains behind everything. This is where the sound or the speaker is mounted. There is a handset, like so, that is held in the charger. This is a demonstration unit, so I apologize for the background case. The charger unit mounts wherever it's convenient for the spotter to grab a hold. It has to be wired into the reverse circuit as well as into power and ground. This is just wired power and ground. The entire system is a wireless or a Wi-Fi system, so it communicates on a dedicated secure circuit or secure signal between the 3 of them. When the truck gets put into reverse, the driver sees that screen right there. It basically is asking for the driver to either wait for the spotter or to override the system. If he just chooses to use the spotter goes back to where it's safe for the spotter. They can be out of the line of sight of the mirrors, they can be off to the side and get the best possible perspective, and then they squeeze and hold this trigger. The driver gets a safe signal, 3 quick flashes of green LED, and continues on, backing the truck the way that the driver would back the truck normally. When the spotter wants the driver to stop or slips on the ice and drops the handset, this is basically a dead man trigger. Just lets go, the driver gets that signal. There's a one-way push-to-talk function on this, so the spotter can communicate to the driver. He can give him signals or give him verbal commands, 10 more feet, 5 more feet, etc. Or I stopped you because there's somebody back here that shouldn't be. That, from the user's perspective, is basically it. That's about as simple as it gets. From the safety officer's perspective, every backing event is recorded. There's a data system in here, and each one of those backing events gets uploaded to a cloud-based server. Whoever holds the key to the software at each department can actually look at that data, see their total backing score, their safety score, if you will. They can look at the total number of unsafe backing events and drill down to the detail of who was actually driving the truck. So they know that they can ask the question, you didn't use the system at that time, why not? If somebody is habitual in overriding the system, for instance, they can have an opportunity to retrain. The idea behind that piece is accountability. There's never been accountability in how a vehicle is backed, and this brings accountability to bear. That's how we're going to prevent accidents, that's how we're going to prevent death, is by making sure people are accountable for it.